Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. Today on the program, the race to the midterm elections nearing the home stretch. With administration bets dominating recent Pulse Asia surveys.
Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin hindi nag-iisip yung mga botante because ever since after the EDSA revolution, you can very well see how voters have been experimenting on the choices that are given to them.
Still, opposition candidates insist Judgment Day is Election Day.
Huwag yung itapo ng boto nyo at pagkatapos nagsisisi.
What can opposition candidates do to win? Former presidential spokesperson Edwin Lacierda and political analyst Tayao join us live. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pinky Webb. More than a week before the midterm elections, senatorial candidates who are part of the administration slate are showing strong survey standings. Well, at least in the recent Pulse Asia survey, the latest survey shows re-electionists Cynthia, Villar, and Grace Poe sharing the top spot. Former Senator Lito Lapid jumped to the third spot. He is now statistically tied with Pia Cayetano, who's also seeking a Senate comeback. Bongo and Sonny Angara are also statistically tied at 4th to 8th places. Completing the list of probable winners are Bong Revilla, Bato, dela Rosa, Nancy Binay, Koko Pimentel, Imee Marcos, and Jinggoy Estrada. Also in the list, the only Otso Diretso candidate, Bam Aquino and JV Ejercito, Roxas and Francis Tolentino slipping from the top 12. The survey was conducted a month before the elections. This despite claims of opposition bets popularity reflected in university student polls and in social media. Let's go straight to the source of the story. Former presidential spokesperson Edwin Lacierda, and later on in the show, political analyst Professor Tayao. He'll be joining us a little later on. Edwin, good to see you again.
Hi,
Welcome to the
morning.
show.
Yes.
Good morning. All right, I want to start with this. When I saw the survey, the latest Pulse Asia survey, which we need to clarify and remind everyone that this was done April 10 to 14.
Actually a month before the Holy Week.
Yeah. A month before the Holy Week.
Yes, Holy Week was 14, I think.
April 14,
was
no,
it
I think
during
it was
Holy
like
Week?
18. But
Okay.
not a month
10 to 14.
before Holy Week.
No. I mean, a week before Holy Week.
Correct,
sorry.
a week before Holy Week.
Yes.
And then, to me, what seems to be, there's a lot of things different here, but I want to start with number 1 and number 2. Statistically tied, but Cynthia Villar has, if you were to vote for her, it says 51.7% as compared to Grace Poe's 50.5%. But again, statistically tied, considering the marginal error. What do you think of this?
You know, in the previous month's survey, they were at around 70s. Their numbers were at 70. So I asked Ronnie Holmes, I had an opportunity to talk to Ronnie. Sabi ko, Ronnie, bakit ang laki ng binagsak nila Cynthia and Grace?
You're talking about the voting for, ano? Yeah,
yes,
50.
the voting for, yeah. It was 50, in the previous month it was 70 plus. So, and then it precipitously dropped. In the case of Grace, it was a drop of 22 points. So I asked Ronnie, called up Ronnie and said, what would account for this? And apparently it turned out that they shifted from a list, when they asked the respondents, from a list to an actual sample as a ballot. As when you go to the voting center, you will fill it up as though you were given a ballot. And apparently, traditionally, every year, as they shift from a list to a ballot voting, people just drop off. I mean, it's maybe the font size. According to Ron, it's maybe the font size,
Really?
the length of the ballot.
Yeah.
So it accounted for the drop of almost all. The only one I think who didn't drop was JV Ejercito. So, but other than that, apart from that, Ana Tabunda said that of the 1,800 respondents, about 10% did not vote. And I spoke to Ronnie, he said 5% were considered spoiled. So either that 5 is part of the 10 or it's separate. It's either 10 or 15% that didn't vote.
So we're looking at least 10%
We're
of
at
the
least looking at
1,800 that
Yes.
are either spoiled or did not vote. At least
Yes,
10
yes.
to 15%. What is the reason though? I can't seem to quite understand that. from a list, meaning they list, sino mga iboboto mo sa darating na May 13 elections? Isusulat nila yon.
Alphabetical yan eh. Paglistahan yan, di ba? When you go to a ballot, it's vertical and horizontal. There's vertical, there's horizontal. So the names, you go through it, so it takes longer. Whereas in a list, it's alphabetical. Maybe it's not alphabetical, but straight down. In an actual ballot, it affects. Apparently, it does affect the way people vote. So that's an.
But Edwin, you're saying that from listing, that doesn't mean that they list the names themselves. They still
Pero
shape.
now that's I was myself surprised, but Ronnie wasn't surprised.
Okay.
So it's something that happens traditionally. So there's a drop, and so you see all the drop. But again, this is just a month before the election, so a lot can happen.
So what we're talking about really is, when you look at the latest Pulse Asia survey, again, April 10 to 14, yung awareness mataas. For example, Cynthia, Villar, Grace Poe, Lito Lapid, lahat sila 100% awareness, the first three, no? And then, dito nagkakaiba yan, yung voting for. Kasi apart from the awareness, the next column would be voting for.
That's what they call in conversion. So you have awareness, kilala ka, iboboto ba kita? That second column is called conversion or voting for.
Ibig sabihin, iboboto ba kita?
Iboboto ba kita?
And then here, you have Cynthia Villar at 51.7% and 50.5% for Grace Poe. What does that say, though, about two women topping the senatorial race for now?
Well, I'm not sure if gender plays a role, but if you look at even up till the list goes down to surge, one thing would stand out is everybody has name recall. Kilala lahat yan eh. There's nobody strange like some guy like Gadon who's nowhere there. Kilala talaga sila. In fact, if you go down, awareness ni Mar is 99.
Mataas siya.
99.
Yeah, ang problema niya was the voting for.
The voting for.
Yeah.
So, yung mga ganun, it really depends on how you look at it. And if you're one thing that stands out, gospel truth ito. Every midterm elections is always considered for the administration. In 2013, 9 out of 12 were administration candidates. Whether you considered, the other thing is also, if you're an incumbent, you have an advantage already. So, if you look at them, all of them are practically incumbents.
But if that is how we are going to see it, two factors, you're an incumbent senator for the midterm elections and you are part of the administration, you have a JV Ejercito. I'm passing this by
Incumbent
real
si
quick.
JV, by the way.
Exactly. Incumbent siya and administration siya, and yet he's not...
Okay, here's where it is. An election right now, people are asking, I won't mention names, but why are we voting for planters? Why are we voting for more capable, talented, qualified individuals? The simple truth is, in a senatorial election, in a national election, what you need is ads, reach. Kailangan mo makilala ka ng tao. Kahit nakilala ka, they need to listen to your message. So, it's the volume of ads. Now, if you're administration, lamang ka. Because the president is going out there campaigning for you. He's got free airtime. You record whatever he's saying, it's out there live. So they got promotions and they have ads. Those who are not part of the administration find it hard to do ads, especially if your volume is down. In the case, for instance, of Bam and Mar, who are not administration candidates, I know for a fact that in that particular survey period, the volume of ads of Mar were down.
Why is that? So April 10 to 14,
because,
why?
Because there's a campaign spending limit. For me, you have to strategize where are you going to place. If you notice right now, buhos lahat ang ads. Every day, you'll see ads of several candidates. All candidates are buhos talaga ngayon. So it's a volume of ads that would account for the drop of a particular candidate or not, or the messaging, or the how nice the ads are. But there is an inherent advantage to being an administration candidate. There is a disadvantage if you're not administration or if you're not incumbent. So that would account for that.
But it's good to note what you said, that in 2013, and historically that happens, a midterm election normally, the people who win the midterm elections are administration candidates. You were saying in 2013, 9 of 12 actually won. How important, though, are the midterm elections? I mean, if you were to look back, Edwin, at all the midterm elections, would you say this is one of the tightest competition so far?
This is, I know of, by the way, I know of a newscaster who was supposed to be join us, and he had name recall, but she decided not to join. But all the candidates there are kilala na. So it's the name... Masikip. That's why those who are below 12, don't count them out. I'm saying this not because...
Why?
Because it's so tight. So you now look into the number of ads, the volume of ads. It's how you come out on TV, on news.
Okay.
It's important for people to see you because it's reach. Also, you may think that you have the volume, but there's what we call share of voice. Ang share of voice, ibig sabihin yan, if in a week you've got 20 ads, but in that particular week you have 500 ads, your share of voice is less than 10%. Because you need 50 ads, spots in a week to have 10% share of voice. So it depends on the share of voice. That's why right now, people are amping their ads. So you want to have a bigger share of voice.
Buhos na ngayon. But if we were to look at the opposition candidates, you talk about Senator Bam Aquino, former Senator Mar Rojas, who possibly, you can correct me if I'm wrong, have the name recall, possibly have the money compared to the other Otso Diretso candidates. You have Chel Diokno, you have Hilbay, you have Romy Macalintal, you have Samira Guto.
Gary Alejano. Na alam naman, even them, nag-guest sila dito a number of times at sinasabing number one, wala talaga silang pera. Number two, hindi pa sila dinadala ng mga local government officials. In fact, minsan allergic pa daw sa Which is why, kaya nga, pag administration ka, lamang ka. Because yung ground, importante yung ground war. Because we're talking about the air war. Air war is radio, TV.
That's one. That's one aspect.
The ground war is politiko. That's why administration has an inherent advantage because hawak nila yung politiko, budget nyo, ira nyo, whatever. I can, kakusapin kita.
Yeah.
So that's the advantage on both air and ground. They have the budget and they have the people on the ground.
So then the opposition candidates, ang laban na lang talaga nila is air. Kasi wala silang ground eh.
Pakiusap. You know, not all, there will be instances where, I know of one instance where a high-ranking official asked only for 3 candidates for a local official. He didn't ask for the entire slate of hugpong. Sabi niya, 3 lang hinihingi ko sa'yo, bahala ka na sa iba.
Really?
So that's what you do. That's you talk to the local officials. Sama mo naman ako dito.
Yeah.
And depending on your relationship, it's because eventually if they are elected, kahit paano may utang. So that's the ground and the air war. That's important. And administration has a distinct advantage of both air and ground.
If what is more important, anong mas lalamang, ang ground o ang air?
Ang air malakas eh. You need to have air because it's the reach. Yeah. You know, if you can look a 30-second ad, you put it out on national TV, it reaches the entire country. There's a science to it. That's why you need media buyers to put out ads.
We'll be taking a short break. This is The Source on CNN Philippines. Coming up in the final stretch of a campaign, what can a candidate still do to squeeze into the Magic 12? Former presidential spokesperson Edwin Lacierda, and hopefully Professor Ed Tayao will be with us after the break. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, former presidential spokesperson Edwin Lacierda, and joining us now, political analyst and Professor Ed Tayao. Professor, I'm going to ask you what Edwin told us a while ago, that he spoke to Pulse Asia, Ronnie Holmes and Ana Tabunda, at sinabi daw, bakit ang baba ng voting for column doon sa Pulse Asia. In fact, when you look at the top 2, who are re-electionist Senators Cynthia, Villar, and Grace Poe, ang 100% awareness nila nandyan. However, yun yung voting for, nasa 51.7 and then Grace Poe at 50.5. Apparently, Edwin was told that from a list, it became the actual ballot. And traditionally, that has happened though in the past.
You could say that, but that's the probable, the technical explanation to it, no? You're not probably weighing on how the respondents have been actually choosing their candidates lately. Right now, I'm still inclined to think it's still a toss between Senator Cynthia and Senator Grace Poe. So, to my mind, no matter how you change how you ask the question, at this juncture, the voters have already made up their mind. No? Siguro magbabago lang ng konti doon sa
By-
10, 11,
but that survey was April 10 to 14.
14.
So traditionally, voters make a decision in the last 2 weeks of the campaign.
Ganun ba yun? Traditionally, hindi pa made up ang kanilang minds?
By then, at least yung kalahati niyan made up na yan.
But Professor, I think the point I'm trying to ask is, it's something that should be highlighted. Why is the voting for only at half, at 51.7%? Even if you say that made up na yung mind sila, don't you question that? Bakit ang baba ng voting for?
Ang awareness naman kasi, hindi naman ibig sabihin translatable to something positive.
Absolutely.
No?
Awareness, kilala mo ba?
Oo, kilala mo. Pero yun nga, if you are going to vote for, that means, apart from being aware, you're now supportive of the candidate. So, in other words, when you say supportive, you're not just voting for the candidate. Ang tendency naman natin palagi kapag meron tayong manok, ikakampanya pa natin yan eh. But normally, what happens, especially in a senatorial election, meron ka na kagad 3 hanggang siguro 6 na sigurado ka na. Tapos, yung 6 doon na manggagaling dyan yung mga sinabi sa'yo ng kaibigan mo o ng pamilya mo. And so,
By the way, the fill-up rate here is at 8.
The what?
Fill-up rate.
Okay.
Which is
Ibig
more or less
sabihin,
8 ang pag bumoboto ka,
8.
traditionally 8. On the average, 8. So lalaro talaga yan, the 9 to 12.
Yeah.
It's very fluid. That's why don't count everyone out in the top 20.
Exactly.
So let's look into this. So the first 6 would be Cynthia Villar, Grace Poe, and then you have Lito Lapid, and then you have Pia Cayetano, Bongo, and Sonny Angara. Let's just get your assessment on the first 6. What are your thoughts on this? Magpapalit pa kaya to on election day o ito na rin yan talagang top 6?
I was just talking about 2013 elections, and I'm not sure which particular survey firm anticipated Grace Poe to be number 1. Most of the survey firms I remember, 8 to 12 siya. So it was a real surprise.
Yeah.
So pwede pa ding magbago yan, but not as radical. Yung 8 to 12 mo, yun talaga yung very critical dyan eh. Last minute yan pwede
Correct.
magbago.
We'll go there. But do you think these are the almost permanent top 6 that we're seeing?
Well, most likely, I'm still hoping not, but most likely it is.
Bakit? Why are you hoping not?
Well,
Who do you want out of there?
At least the non-performing ones. I don't need to tell you who, but
1 or 2? Ilan bang non-performing dyan para sa'yo, Professor?
at least mga dalawa.
Dalawa. Okay.
Here's where
Edwin, what
I
about
have the
you?
benefit, and I'm saying this, I have the benefit of seeing several surveys.
Yeah.
And I see that Pulse Asia is only one, because all of them have made different methodology. But in one particular survey, I saw that Sonny Angara is in number 11 spot.
Really?
Yeah.
What
And
survey
this was
is that?
subsequent to April 10 to 14.
What survey is this?
There was an internal survey that we did, and we saw more or less Grace and Cynthia,
1 and 2.
Bongo, there because it's really a big push from the administration.
Yeah.
You can expect Pia Cayetano.
Yeah. But Grace Poe is not a push from the administration.
But she's got name recall.
Yeah.
She's an incumbent. So all these inherent advantages work to that. But the interesting thing, like what Ed was saying, is the 7 to 12.
Sige, let's
Would
go
be
there.
so fluid.
Let's go to the next batch because when you look at the Pulse Asia survey, may red line yan sa baba, but it first has a top 6 and then the next 6, but doesn't, ayan naman talagang ranking. You have Bong Revilla, Bato de la Rosa, Nancy Binay, incumbent, Koko Pimentel, incumbent, Imee Marcos, and Jinggoy Estrada. Your thoughts on this?
Magbabago pa yan. I mean, ang critical dyan is starting with Senator Koko Pimentel onwards. No? I'm still thinking if Jinggoy Estrada might even
Drop out?
overtake
Overtake?
them. Yeah, baka mag-improve si
Jinggoy.
Jinggoy.
Why do you say that?
Well, among others, of course, he's an actor.
Yeah,
no?
kilala siya.
And so far, in the whole election period, Senator Koko Pimentel, unfortunately, has not been really rating. No? So, lagi siyang nandun sa margins. And Imee Marcos have come up with some controversial, not only issues, but also pronouncements, suggesting that North voters will only vote for her and not complete the whole slate. And nag-respond yung mga Southerners. Sabi, sige, dito
Kung
hindi
ganon.
na namin boboto.
Yeah. Well, let's understand that, no? Also, Edwin, for the benefit of the viewers, kasi kapag tumatakbo kang senador, ang katotohanan naman dyan, kung hindi mo ibuo yung... Hindi, sabihin na lang natin ganito, kung isa lang ang boto mo, sabihin natin gusto mo si Senator A, malaking advantage yun. Kasi
Malaki.
hindi mo binoto yung 2 hanggang 12.
Yes.
So parang
That's right.
malaking plus yun doon sa isang taong iboboto mo lang. No?
That 6 to 12 is so fluid. You're looking only at the numbers themselves, but if you look at the percentage of vote, you look at the ranking,
Yeah.
which is very deceiving. You may think that it's cast in stone, but it's not. If you look at the percentage of votes, it's so tight that...
Yes.
And remember,
Tama.
this is an
Ito
April
yun.
10 to 14.
Yeah.
You may think that, for instance, Bam is low, Mar is out.
Yeah.
You know, a month has happened since then. You've seen the ads. You've seen, by the way, social media plays a role now.
Right.
Yes.
And the ground war is now starting to perk up. The unseen in all this is the ground war.
What are you saying? This is really not a template that people can rely on for now because it's still a month before the elections.
I'll tell you, for instance, that April 10 to 14 is not a predictive
Yeah.
way of looking at.
Okay.
Don't be conditioned to think that solid na yan.
Yeah.
Okay, but we need to talk about some people such as Senator Bam Aquino, who made it somehow to the top 12, because I want to talk about the opposition candidates as well. And Senator Mar Rojas, who was also away for a while and did not make it, but he was part of the 12. Tapos ngayon, wala siya, no? We'll talk about that
Yeah.
after the break. We'll be right back. Tapos lahat. You're watching The Source on CNN Philippines. Our guest today, former presidential spokesperson Edwin Lacierda and political analyst and Professor Ed Tayao. What are we looking at for now? Obviously dominated by administration candidates. Edwin already saying ganun naman historically talaga. Pero sa ngayon, Edwin, Professor, parang dalawa ang posible. Sa ngayon ang posibleng pumasok pa. Kung pwede, Mar Rojas,
Mar and
Bam
Mar.
Aquino and Mar Rojas.
Yeah.
Sir, why did Mar Rojas slip?
Okay. Mar slipped for a number of reasons. He went out of the country.
Yeah.
When we go out of the country during a campaign, it can affect you, like what happened to Raul Rocco when he went out of the country. The second one is his ads then were low. But those are the reasons why. But subsequently, and I say this because I am familiar with this, you do your own internal survey. Let me just clarify why you need to do your own internal survey.
why?
Because a Pulse Asia survey is, by and large, is a horse race. It's a quantity. But you do your own internal survey because you need to see the quality.
Yeah.
Why are you not voting for this particular? Why are you voting for him? Why are you not voting
But
for him?
isn't it quality over quantity?
No.
anyway?
But you have to form your messaging, your ads. It informs you on the next step.
Got it. Okay.
So, the survey of Mar came out where there was he was down, he was out of he just came back. His volume of ads was low. But now it's amped up. In fact, the survey, internal survey, subsequent to the April
Sige,
10
ano
to
yung
14,
internal?
went up. He went up.
Yeah, which is what?
It was number 8.
Number 8. Professor, what are your thoughts on Bam and Senator Mar? Senator Bam.
Sila lang talaga yung may chance na umakyat because this we've seen in all the surveys. But taking off from Sec Edwin, alam mo, ang mali dito sa atin, ang surveys kasi is a strategy tool, more of a strategy tool. Ay ginagamit natin campaign tool. Kaya sablay no? So, actually, nagsimula lahat yan. Bago ka magsimula ng kampanya, gagawa ka ng sarili mong survey so that you find out saan ka mahina.
May chance
Right.
ba ako?
Yes,
Oo.
oo. Tapos, doon ka ngayon magko-concentrate. How are you calibrating your messaging, your strategy, so that you get more votes or you improve your chances of winning in particular areas?
So if you're saying it's a campaign strategy, what are your thoughts on surveys then? The big ones, Pulse Asia, SWS, anong thoughts mo?
Nandun pa din sila for general patronage siguro.
Remember there
Kasi
was
1,200 respondents.
1.8 na, di ba?
Remember there was
Secretary.
1,800 naman.
1,800.
Traditionally, itong last survey. Remember there was a Supreme Court case against the publications of
Yes.
but it was declared no, that's allowed. But it can be an opportunity for mind conditioning. That's why you don't need, you shouldn't look at Pulse Asia as cast in stone.
Yes, absolutely. But then also for strategists, campaign managers, and candidates
can't do that.
who make it to the top 12 or
I'm
who are
very
in
happy.
top 6 will always say, thank you,
Yes,
maraming
that's
salamat.
correct.
And then pag wala ka doon, sasabihin, you can't use that as a tool. It's not cast in stone.
And that's why you need to have your own internal survey because you need to have a quality.
Okay, I'll have to ask one last question because I'm very interested to find out, bakit ganun? Pag meron kayong mga internal survey, kahit na sino palagi kayong pasok. Pero doon sa
Wait a minute.
quanti na...
No, that's not.
Not really.
You don't do an internal survey to fool yourself. You do an internal survey to see where are you good and where you're not. Like I said, the internal survey of MAR was subsequent to April 10 to 14
After.
when there were new ads that came out.
Okay.
And so,
Sige. All right.
Yun ang reason. You don't fool yourself when you do your internal
Last question.
survey.
Ilan ho, what do you think, Professor, in terms of the midterm elections, ilan ang admin, ilan ang OPPO?
Well, conservatively 12-2. Ay, 10-2.
10-2.
Pero pwedeng mag 12-0.
Okay, second.
Sa akin, because of social media, we don't know. Traditionally, I would agree with Ed, but
All right.
because of social media, you don't know how it plays out.
All right, maraming salamat to former presidential spokesperson Edwin Lacierda and political analyst and professor Ed Tayao. Thank you for joining us here on The Source. I'm Pinky Webb. You're watching CNN Philippines.
Alam mo yung
Can you imagine?